Let's go back several thousand years ago to ancient Spain, where the very first guitar was made. These tiny instruments were four-course guitars. A course was essentially a single pair of strings, which means a four-course guitar had 8 strings, all very close together. Of course, these instruments were much cheaper than what we are used to today, due to the lack of high-quality materials and skilled construction. Eventually, as guitars became more popular and more used, they developed more courses, until all of a sudden, it lost the courses and developed the individual string concept. Soon enough, guitars had 6 strings and a larger body, longer neck with more frets, and an almost cello-like body shape. These guitars were the very first acoustic guitars being used for genres like classical and even jazz. As time went on, the guitar gradually changed. I guess you could say things really started to pick up from there, because pickups were then added to guitars to create the first electric guitars. Brands like Ibanez, Gretsch and Gibson had hollow body models that were used by many influential guitarists like Chuck Berry and B.B. King. And some may say this model even started rock and roll as a genre. However, in the 1940s, a man named Les Paul teamed up with Gibson to make the very first solid-body electric guitar. Do you know what it was called? Yup, you guessed it, the Gibson Les Paul. It is still used today, and is among one of the most popular guitars ever used alongside the Fender Stratocaster and Telecaster. And has been used to hundreds of guitarists throughout music history. Because of the thin, more ergonomic shape and versatility, this guitar really got rock and roll started. As the solid-body guitar evolved, music started to get heavier, and very well known. Starting off with music like blues and jazz, moving up to artists like Jimi Hendrix or bands like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, who have all contributed a great deal to music history. The 70s and 80s were some of, if not the most booming musical eras of all time, with hundreds of bands sprouting and getting huge. Many of which have very famous and influential guitarists like George Lynch of Dokken, Carlos Santana, Randy Rhoads and even the guitar god himself, Eddie Van Halen, just to name a few. These artists and bands are, of course, considered rock and roll, and for good reason. The music contains overdrive and distortion among other effects, and is louder and faster than lots of other genres of music. However, it doesn't stop there. Rock and roll continued to get heavier, until heavy metal was created. Guitars started to be made with more frets, more strings with lower pitches, darker sounding wood, plus more distortion and other effects are being added. Vocals are becoming louder and one may even say, more violent. Now, there are many different subgenres of heavy metal, all very specific, like metalcore, post-hardcore, symphonic metal, black metal, etc. The one thing that all of these subgenres have in common, however, is the heaviness, the distortion, featuring lots of fast playing and drop tuning, low growls and harsh screaming vocals. From Metallica and Pantera to Killswitch Engage and Wage War, metal has many different variants appealing to all kinds of people. Unfortunately, though, rock and roll and metal are somehow starting to fall out of favor, mainly because people don't seem to appreciate that kind of music anymore. While rock and metal may be acquired tastes, it is truly a sad sight to behold to see this great music falling out of favor due to the music coming out today. Especially when today's music isn't anywhere close to as good as past music was. Luckily, modern rock and metal bands are still alive and pushing through mainstream music, and that is an amazing thing to see. I believe that, in the future, guitars and rock and metal will continue to evolve, and will fall back into favor. As certain genres and bands still have very large fan bases that don't seem to be dying down at all. Anyways, it is unbelievable to see how much guitar and its corresponding music has evolved since its beginning, and it will be exhilarating to see how much it will evolve in the future.